What up? Big Herc916, positivity, motivation. At my mechanic shop, Hunt for Speed. And this guy, man, he's got some crazy stories, man. You talking about a guy who's built some cars for some interesting clientele. Well, let's get into one of his crazy stories. Stay tuned. What up, Matt? So, man, I was telling the people, man, that you got some crazy stories. You work for, a multitude of people building cars. What's one of the crazier stories that you would like to share with us, man, to kind of let these people know as far as how crazy the car game is?
Well, shit. I'm going to sit down on this one. So, a while back, I mean, many years ago, I'd done a couple Cadillacs, okay, mid-60s. And I had a client come in one day. First, he sent me the car. A car shows up on a tow truck, and it was a 60 DeVille. Two-door, and it was haggard, just hammered. Just looked like it sat at the bottom of the ocean. And then this guy comes in with the little entourage, had two other dudes with them. And this cat's name happened to be Oscar. The Oscar was a Romanian guy. From Romania, and he had been over here on a work visa or doing some work. I don't know how he was here for so long. But apparently he wanted me to build him his Cadillac. I had just finished a car for West Coast Customs. It was a build that we did outside of West Coast Customs for them, which was a Lincoln Continental, and he saw the Continental. And he was like, hey, he goes, well, I want the theme, my Cadillac to be themed like the Continental you did. So I was like, cool. And we went through and I told him, I said, hey man, just by looking at the car, what you brought me and everything, I go, to do what we're going to do, you're going to be, 100 to 120 racks into this thing. And he was like, okay. And then I kind of thought it was weird because the Oscar, he talked in the third person. So he looks at me and he goes, the Oscar will think about it, but I'm going to leave the car here. I'll be back tomorrow. So I was like, cool. He came back the next day. This is back when CDs, when we had CDs, no MP3 players, no nothing. And he had a CD case. He handed it to me and there was 100 racks in it. He goes, oh, the Oscar wants you to build him a car. So I was like, cool. So we let's do this, Oscar. So we start, strip the car down, get everything. And then we get it to paint and we get it back from paint, and everything looks good, and the car's going well. And I mean, this was like working over a couple-month project, over about a 18-month long project. Well, around Christmas time, Oscar showed up to the shop one day with a Ryder truck, a big old Ryder box truck. And it looked like it just drove through Best Buy. It had every type of electronic in the back of the truck, and Oscar was like, oh, it's Christmas time. Oscar, give me whatever you want. I looked at the Oscar and said, hey, the Matt wants the Oscar to drive this truck out of here because I don't know where any of this stuff comes from. I don't know any what you're doing. I'm building you a car, man. So I was kind of found out. Then I started doing some research on the Oscar, and it happened that he was he was Romanian, and he was traveling with a guy wearing an all white Adidas sweatsuit. One of those dudes just looked like a stone cold killer. So I two to two together. I believe Oscar was some type of gangster, but I built cars, so it wasn't my judgment to make. But he showed up with the whole thing, truck full of Best Buy stuff. And so, but the one thing about the Oscar is that he had a disability. And I found out before he came to me that he was in a motorcycle accident, and the accident wasn't the bad part. It was when he got run over on Beach Boulevard is what really messed him up. Basically broke his pelvis, and he was kind of had to use a walker and walk, so I didn't really get use of his legs. So we're almost finished with the car. I get the car, we're doing the interior. I mean, the car turned out super, super nice. And my boy Revo over at Stitchcraft Interiors back in the day was doing the interior for me. So we had a couple of things we had to fix on the interior and some stuff, but he still owed me, you know, some good chunk of change on the car. So I had mentioned to Revo, hey Revo, don't let Oscar take the car, right, when it was a Revo shop. So Oscar, Revo said, yeah, no problem, you know, I won't let him take the car. Well, Revo was finishing up the interior stuff. Well, about 2 days later, I get a call from Revo saying, yo, dude, the car's gone. Oscar's got it. I'm like, what do you mean the car's gone? He's like, no, Oscar came, said he wanted to test drive his car. He left one of his guys here with his Mercedes. You know, him and his other buddy hopped in the car, and they drove down the alley, and the one guy ran back and said, oh, the battery's dead. You know, the battery died. And then Revo gave him a jumper box, and the other guy hopped in the car. And guess what? They took the car and the jumper box and didn't come back to try to show what type of gangster they were. You know, that they were going to get the car and not finish paying their final bill. But little known to them that I didn't have the motor set up correctly, and we were still breaking the motor in, and I didn't have a PCV valve set up on it, you know, to create crankcase pressure and not to drive the car over a certain RPM. So I'm trying to call Oscar, and of course, no calls, no nothing, no nothing. Then finally, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm at my shop. The car shows up on a tow truck, you know, radiator cap blowing off, all kinds of stuff happening, that the car wasn't set up. He thought the car was broke, damaged, and he was upset. And I'm like, oh, I was upset. I'm like, no, Oscar, you tried to steal his car. I'm like, I'll fix the car for you. I go, there's nothing wrong with it, but, you know, if the car would have been perfect, you would have taken this car. You know, but we came correct, and I told him I'd have it done in a day. And he came the next day to pick the car up, and it was done. And he asked me that he wanted me to drive with him to a tire place to get the rims and tires put on it, which is at Pacific Performance Tires in Bellflower. So my shop's in West Michigan, Bellflower. My guys are like, don't go with Oscar, you know, you're crazy. Those guys look like they're a gangster. I go, no problem. So I'm driving a Cadillac. Mind you, we put a ZZ 572 crate motor, 720 horsepower crate motor in this bitch. You know, so we take it over to the tire shop. It runs flawlessly in bumper-to-bumper traffic, you know, all the way there. And now we put the rims and tires on it. The Oscar's happy, and now we're on our way back. And so I get an opportunity on the off-ramp where my shop's at. It's a big, nice, long off-ramp into a nice turn to go onto the street on the off-ramp. So as soon as I got on the off-ramp, I open the thing up. You know, we hit about 100, 110, 120. Well, the Oscar tells me that the Oscar's going too fast. He needs to slow down. So I lay on the brakes, you know, 6-piston, new ones up front. They work like they're supposed to work. Next thing you know, Oscar's on the floorboard. Slid right off the seat, onto the floorboard. And I didn't know one man's leg could bend like that. But next thing you know, his knee is up by his ear because his legs weren't working. And I'm trying to go 100 miles an hour into a turn, trying to pick the Oscar up off the floorboard as he's just shitting his pants. So needless to say, the Oscar was really scared. We get back to the shop. He was happy on the car road. Said he never wanted to go that fast ever again in his life. You know, and that was it. Oscar paid off his final bill, and the ship sailed over to Romania, where I understand the car made a couple of movie videos and music videos over in Romania, and is still mobbing the streets of Romania. You know, that's just one of many stories of car building stories that I have for some interesting cats. And if Oscar, if you see this, I miss you, buddy, and the mat is out. Have a good day.
Hello, I'm Big Herc916. Contact me for life coaching and motivational speaking.